Ready to light that fire by doing the things that make you come alive? Welcome to Health Raisers, a podcast for wise women. I'm your host, Dr. Nadine. I left a soul-crushing medical career full of bad news and evolved into a joyful health integration coach, helping hundreds of women find their healthy. You're more than your dress size. Stop putting up with toxic relationships, swallowing your true emotions, and sacrificing your mental health. Stop using your body as a battlefield. You're always giving. You deserve to put yourself first, not just for your sake, but for those you love. Wise women, let's make ourselves a priority right now. It's time to raise some health together. Hello, wise women. Today I have Jen Coate, who is a certified public health professional. Jen was born and raised in the Midwest, but recently moved back from Oregon, where she received her master's in public health from Oregon Health and Science University. She focuses on health promotion and is currently the farm store manager at Greener Farm. This is where I met Jen, and I was really struck. Maybe you don't know this, Jen, so I should tell you. I was really struck by your warmth and your welcoming nature whenever I come to the store. It's not simply that you're being nice, it's above and beyond. So it sparked my interest, and I wanted to get to know more about you because I feel like people like you are such gems in the community. And so I thank you for being here today and sharing time with us.
Wow, thank you so much. What a wonderful intro. And I had no idea. So thanks for coming right out by giving me some amazing insights about your experience in the store and everything. And thanks for having me.
So I'm going to begin with why you do what you do. This podcast is about celebrating health, as you know, but it's about celebrating health in ways that we don't really think about it. Not just the physical, which really is really important, not just the mental, yes, which is really important, but beyond that, the mental, emotional, the spiritual, the intellectual. And what I really want to focus on with you today is the social component of health, and not just in a sort of public health sort of spectrum, but also deeper than that. How we take care of ourselves in our community, how we take care of ourselves, how we do our part to take care of others, and how all of that is pretty much inseparable. So how do you see promoting health in our community?
Yeah, I think that is a really challenging kind of question, just because there's so many aspects to it and it just changes so much all the time. You know, I would think that even if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I would say something completely different. And I guess how I got to where I am right now, I'm from Chicago originally. And so I lived and worked downtown for many years, especially in the service industry. So something about the hospitality and service industry always kept drawing me back. And then I also worked retail. I worked in admin. I kind of have done a lot of different, I've worn a lot of hats, I guess. So, but something about the hospitality industry and having almost that instant gratification of making someone's day kind of better. Like, who doesn't want to get great food or great service? And I think that there's a really high level of that in Chicago. And, but also with that comes exhaustion and burnout. And so I eventually moved out to Portland, Oregon, where I thought that my life would have slowed down a little bit. I wanted to be in nature more. I wanted to go camping more. I had friends out there, and I did all those things. But something about being back in the Midwest has made me like so much happier, because I do kind of think that there's this Midwest hospitality that not a lot of people either know about or they forget. Or I know I forgot. So I think that there's a small part of this Midwest hospitality just kind of ingrained in me. So I don't want to, there's some of the questions that you just kind of created into this one I've been thinking about, and I'm like, I don't know. I think I just kind of was brought up in a very communicative family. Like we were really social. My parents always had plans and friends, and we would be around cousins a lot and things like that. So I just think that it's easy and better to just be kind. I know it sounds so.
Oh, no, it's so refreshing. And it makes so much sense as to why, because it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just the one time I go in there and you happen to be in a happy mood. It's consistent. And it's consistent. I can see that it trickles down. It trickles down and across. I wouldn't necessarily say it's treated such as a strict hierarchy there at Grainer. I feel that everyone feels like he or she is a part of something bigger than themselves. And that translates. It's a consistent, welcoming, helpful, nurturing atmosphere.
Absolutely. I honestly, when I went in for my interview, I was not planning on moving to the Midwest. I was like, I walked in and I was like, absolutely not. It's March in the winter. Everything's gray. I was like, absolutely not. And then don't know if I should swear on this, but in my mind, I was like, beep, I'm going to take this job. I just like, there's something about it. I knew it because I think it is because the people, exactly what you just said, like everybody is there for a reason and everyone has kind of the same communal aspect of what we're trying to achieve, what they're trying to achieve.
And now, here's an ad from our sponsor. In the mood for coffee, tea, yummy pastries, or cool swag? My friends at Infusco have got you covered. Infusco Coffee Roasters is a cozy neighborhood coffee joint in Sawyer and St. Joseph, Michigan. Infusco stands for a healthy community. They craft irresistible seasonal drinks, sourcing local artisans' products. The flavors shine from quality ingredients, and their beans are roasted on site. They do not hide behind tons of sugar. Every time I go, I'm greeted by my name with a smile. Bad service is just non-existent. It feels like stepping into a friend's living room. They keep it personal. Old school, eclectic coffee mugs on the wall, fun merch, including stickers designed by artists, t-shirts, and sweatshirts. It's the perfect place to get to know your neighbors and chat with tourists. You will always find people deep in conversation. Special events keep it fresh. Community, health, the heart of Sawyer. That's Infusco. I hope to meet you there.
So with such a fraught subject, staying healthy and staying healthy in terms of access to food and specifically nutrient-dense food, which not a lot of people have the ability or the privilege to have. How do you keep your drive to be part of that movement? How do you prevent the burnout that you talked about in Chicago from translating to this new area, this position you have at Grainer?
Well, my experience in Portland, I was working at Oregon Community Food Systems Network, which is OCFSN, which is not the easiest thing to say. But it was a collective of over 60 organizations all over the state. So they were nonprofits, allies, people within the government, the Oregon Food Bank, universities, extension programs, all of these places that would come together, and they had different working groups. No one got paid. It was all volunteer based off people like already doing the work, but then coming together and collectively bringing up other organizations, bringing new people in, or going to Congress, fighting for things. Like each thing was different. It was amazing. And so my experience there really brought into my eye that people are doing so much work. Like everywhere you're looking, there are organizations on the ground running. There are people at the local level. There are people at state level. There are people fighting for the federal level. So I think that having that in my mind, I wanted to kind of get down and like literally get my hands dirty and work on a farm, because that was one aspect that I hadn't. I have volunteered for food systems adjacent places, even in Chicago. But I do think that getting nutrient dense food to people, not only that, just like you said, it is a privilege to be able to shop at certain places. And like lots of people don't know what's in their neighborhood or what's available also. So I think that kind of getting everybody together and like fighting for one main cause is really kind of what brought me to this interest of promoting healthy food choices. So
you were not, farming was not a part of your history. This was relatively new?
No. Yeah. I volunteered on a farm in Portland. But it was like, they would be like, oh, so go weed that box, like that gardening box. I'm like, okay. And like, let me use my phone, I guess. Like I felt like so stupid. But I'm always up for a challenge. And so I think that was a large reason why I was really interested in this position as well, to really extend my knowledge on understanding like how people in rural Michigan and the rural Midwest eat and how they get their food, and where do the people that live across the street from me, like where do they shop? And most of the time it's not where I work.
So talk to me about that, because I am curious about your specific lens of not having grown up in that environment, and most likely then not shopping at a place like Grain, or not being able to have that opportunity. What do you see as the main differences? And maybe what are a second part of that question would be, what motivates or doesn't motivate people to make the choice between like a big box grocery store versus a place like Grainer, which is a community supported agriculture program?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it has to do with convenience. I think a lot of people aren't going to maybe don't love grocery shopping as much as I do, because I love grocery shopping. So I'm fine with going to numerous places in a day, but that's just me. And I know that people are busy. And so they're not going to be like, if you can go to Meijer 15 minutes down the road to get your vegetables, your shoes, and your Halloween candy, you're going to go do that if you have a family, maybe, and it's cheaper. Or you can go and get significantly better tasting produce that will last longer, that doesn't have pesticides, doesn't have chemicals, and is grown literally right there. But also people probably just don't know. I think that there's a lot that we're not educated on. I think that it is a lot of personal interest in what you can spend your time researching. And I think that, it's about access, which to me is the educational part.
So okay. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because it seems to me that in the era of the internet, in the era of being able to get on your phone and look things up relatively easily, the messages are not necessarily new. We know that in the grocery store, you know, the vegetables are coming from, and the fruits are coming from great distances. And in order to mass produce efficiently and be cost effective, you know, that's why pesticides are used. And it's almost like well, if I don't see it, then I don't really have to think about it, versus going to Grainer, where it is good. It does cost more, but the benefits are not necessarily something that are quick. They're not tangible necessarily. What would you say about that?
Well, I think that, you know, exactly what you just said. Like the studies are out there that show that eating whole nutrient-rich vegetables are significantly better for you in the long run in terms of mortality rates and in terms of, and like if you're talking children, like staying awake longer in schools or having better or like higher success rates in schools. And then if you're talking adults, like you're just living a healthier life and you're making that choice so that you are literally like living healthier. Your body is working better. But in terms of the larger grocery stores, it's difficult to get away from at this point. I think that I don't really know how to answer that question because I think that, yes, there are lots of studies out there that show that like, if you do this, then this could be your outcome and it could be different. But people are creatures of habit. And I also think that, especially with kids, parents, if they're on a budget, like they're not going to risk buying, a rutabaga because they're not sure if their kid's going to like it.
Oh, and that's interesting.
That's okay. And so then again, that goes to like the education part where it's like, oh, well, if we were talking about growing rutabagas in the classroom, then maybe your kid would be more interested to like try it. But that's a whole nother conversation. But
here's something you just said that I like to think about small actionable steps. So instead of saying you have to overhaul your whole life and never go to a big grocery store and only go to Grant, and I don't think that's what we're saying. Small steps, like I notice the way the store is set up. It's almost like it's inviting you to be curious. It's inviting you to feel the sensation of being a kid in a candy store who might want to try something new in small doses. The way things are arranged, the packaging, carefully curated, to even when I go to the cash register, my eye always goes to that wall with the recipe. So that's another really accessible thing. Like, oh, I don't know what a rutabaga is and what do I do with it? Well, if you look up on that, it's always written on, it's on this butcher paper too, which is really cool. Like there's everything about it is just really well done and inviting. And it's, okay, so with this week's produce, you can take it and make this salad, or you can make a pizza with it, or you can fold it into chili, or, there's just, the sky's the limit. So I think it's not necessarily a question, it's an observation. How can I feel less intimidated about not pausing at a vegetable and looking at it like, I've never seen that before. I don't know what that is. I don't know what to do with that. Therefore, I'm going to walk away from that. I find those little can-do flags very encouraging.
Yeah, I don't. I will not take credit for that. That is the owner, Liz. That is like that was the first thing that I was kind of taught. There was like every week we do a different recipe, and it's based off of what's in season, and they're all on our website, and so it's easy to pick. And kind of going back to resources that are out there, like that's a perfect example. Is that there are programs specifically out there that are like, hey kids, or hey parent, or hey person that doesn't know how to cook, this is a turnip. These are 4 recipes that you love, like mac and cheese, but with like turnips in it or something like that. Like there are those things out there, and like every state has amazing nonprofits and places that are doing that. And especially if you're using SNAP or WIC or some kind of federally funded way to getting groceries, education is a part of that. You have to be involved in some kind of educational part of those programs. And so recipe cards and things like that are included in that. And so I think that what we're talking about is like maybe being addressed, but probably not for, I would say like 90% of the population. Although I know that that's a bad number. I just, don't use that as data.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. So I think this folds very nicely into the next question then. I know you're passionate about waste-free cooking. So when you are dealing with things that are in season, and you don't want things to go bad, and say it's only, you don't have a family, it's only 2 people, where it's going to be harder for those things not to go to waste. What are some of your favorite creative go-to tips for not allowing things to go to waste?
Yes, I have learned so much about this from the Kitchen Network. Like, they are amazing at what they do. But my very first experience and kind of even learning about this was the first restaurant I worked at in Chicago, which was our pastry chef. She would make, we were bagels in the morning and pieces at night. So leftover bagels would be kind of turned into croutons for the next day. And then left like ends of vegetables or like tomatoes that wouldn't look good in a salad or something like that would be turned into a savory brioche the next day. And then, so we'd have like a sweet and a savory, and like, she would just be like so creative with how to utilize what we consider food waste just because something doesn't look a specific way. So that was my first kind of change of my mind, because like I grew up in a family where we ate leftovers, but, I mean, it was never reconstructed. It was the same meal, but just warmed up. And so, but now, kind of being my own adult and thinking for myself, and I am just one, and so it is so hard to go grocery shopping for just one person, and then like getting creative with all the things you need to, and reducing food waste. But I put scraps of veggies in a bowl in a freezer, and then I make veggie stock. I like to put it in like different ice cubes, like if I'm making pesto or something. So then I have little servings already ready. I like to make a lot of different random salads and soups. And I know that that's just like a simple cop out, but I just think that
you're talking to one of the people who loves making soup. It's not a cop out.
Like, I am notoriously bad at following recipes because I'm like, oh no, I'll just like throw that in too. And, my friends make fun of me because I honestly just make what they consider like a kitchen sink meal, but it always turns out like I think good. So I don't really have necessarily any like specific tips, I would say, but I think that making veggie stock to me is the easiest thing, especially with the scraps of all your stuff.
Well, some of the things that I've been playing with after this summer, with the abundance of tomatoes, the abundance of peppers that I never tried before. I have a dehydrator and I have a canner, both water boiling and a pressure cooker that I can use as a canner. So I've been I got a little bit more inspired by trying different preservation methods. So actually not just making tomato sauces, but also making tomatoes, some pasta sauces, yes, but also tomato stock. So, when you're boiling off the tomatoes, instead of dumping all of that liquid, actually canning that as well. Salsas, pickling them, pickling different vegetables. Here's the thing. My husband was hurting my feelings last year. Oh, when he would come from Meijer with a container of pickles every week because he loves sandwiches. And it would just be like 3 spears or 4 spears in this glass or plastic container. And then he'd finish it and throw the container away, or, unless I fished it out or did something with it, recycle it. But the thing was like, I just felt it was wasteful. So I pickled a whole bunch of cucumbers for him to last for a little bit. Yeah. So I did that. That's new. I dehydrated tomatoes this year to make tomato powder, and I dehydrated bell peppers to make a bell pepper powder. And I've just been kind of sprinkling them into stocks or soups or sauces or, fortifying things. I was making chili the other day. I added the tomato powder. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this.
I was going to say, like, you just nailed it. My gosh, you're doing so much. That's awesome.
I just love the kitchen. Love, love, love. And I hate waste. So I always love to talk to people who feel the same way and, get creative. The vegetable stock thing, I really like that. I never thought about putting things in a bag in the freezer and then taking that out later to make a stock. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I usually just have a bowl. I don't even bother with the bag.
Okay.
But yes,
even better, even easier.
I will say that this is the most full my freezer has ever been with preserving stuff. Just like blanched vegetables, like it's so much. But we have winter is coming, so what else are we going to do but eat it? It'll be great in the winter.
And I agree with you. And I think there's something about being mindful too that I think ties into some of what we're talking about. It's really pausing and tasting the difference between something that came out of the ground recently and has all the dirt on it still. That's been interesting too. Washing everything off and going, oh my goodness, potatoes come from the ground.
Yeah.
Wow. And tasting that compared to something that was mass produced and shipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just a difference in the way everything tastes and the way you feel. It invites you to slow down and to notice these nuances, I think.
I completely agree. This is the best I have felt in like years. And I honestly think it's from eating how I eat now.
Fantastic.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Fantastic. How do local food systems affect community health and connection, do you think?
Well, I think that, so it's interesting being new because a lot of my experiences are based out of Portland in terms of this kind of a question.
So yeah, and I'd love for you to compare and contrast that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So in Portland, I will say there is more money being spent on local food systems, in my opinion, just from what I have seen or what I have seen. In terms of nonprofits talking to each other, in terms of schools going to farms and getting field trips, in terms of people talking about it, in terms of co-op prices of organic produce in grocery stores being like pretty cheap, in terms of access, in terms of federal funding, like the SNAP and WIC benefits and things like that, double up food bucks. There's a million farmers markets there. So I think in that way, local food is really holding a clear, headfast line for community health in that kind of a city. I think that it's easier because it's so concentrated there, because it's a city. There's more people, there's more resources, there's people able to glean from one place and bring it to another. There's just more resources. While being here, I have realized that there are people doing it. I don't know how they're all interconnected yet, but I know that they are, because even when we're volunteering at Blessings in a Backpack on Thursdays, the Rotary Club is there, the church is there, like people from the farm are there. There are people that are coming together to give local food, or I guess it's not like local, it's shelf stable food, which is great. Okay. But otherwise, like these kids want to eat over the weekend. So like, that's one of those things where I'm like, great, I don't really care. I mean, I have a preference, but as long as these kids are eating, that's great. So I think that it's still interconnected, and there's still a lot of work that's being done, especially for community health. And I think that it only works starting at the local level, just because the people at the local level are the ones doing it. It doesn't matter if someone from the state is giving you, you got a grant and you have to do X, Y, Z, and then you have to report on this and this and this. And then it's still all at the local level. It's the people that are like really doing the work. And I don't think that work would be able to be done unless there's at the state level. So I know it's all connected, but I do think that community health is started at the local level.
So if we wanted to get involved, if we wanted to make a difference at home and in our own homes, but also extend it out into the community, what's some advice you could give a person who wanted to get started?
Oh, I think that honestly, if you just Google nonprofits near me food systems, I think that you would see that there are lots of places like farms. I think that, we're in a rural area, so there are going to be a lot of farms, but farms need help all the time. I think
even if you don't have any experience?
I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak for every farm, but I would say there is always something to do. I guess maybe not. Now that I'm thinking about it, like I don't do a lot of the farming because we have farmers, but I know that when there's a big potato harvest or when we were planting garlic or things like that, I was helping. I was like out there, but that is a planned harvest. But yes, I can't drive a tractor. I tried, but it was a laughable experience. But so I guess maybe I'll take that back. But I think especially it's weird because in this area, I have found that a lot of places are hiring. And I think that this is such a vacation area that not a lot of people that live here they're like on empty. And I think that everybody is hurting right now. There are not a lot of people that live here all year, I don't think, is what I have seen in terms of this area. Again, I'm new. So that didn't answer your question, though. So I would say I would just see what part of the food systems you're interested in, if it's farm to school, or if there's some kind of packing for the food banks, or if it's volunteering your time, just trying to get the word out. If it's Taste the Local Difference up in Traverse City, they have that entire magazine that is all statewide organizations within region that tells about who is doing what and then kind of breaks it down into processing, distribution, farming, individual level, local level. And so there are tons of resources out there, but I can do a little bit more research and then give you a list.
I have a friend who has an organization out of Detroit called To Make Food Not Waste. And I had the opportunity to go volunteer there. And there's always an opportunity to do that. And this was something that I felt was really practical and accessible and easy to do, which was to go and volunteer in the kitchen with a group of people. Mm-hmm. They received provisions from local sources when they have access, food, fresh produce specifically. And so, we spent the good part of the morning peeling vegetables, chopping vegetables in order. So there was just the prep. And then the next part of it was going to be preparation by the chefs into creative recipes. I'm looking for something like that locally because I drove 3 hours to go do that.
Right.
I would love to do that a little bit closer. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and I did something similar to that in Portland. And I'm like, it's crazy that wouldn't be a thing here.
Or maybe it is, and I don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of hoping anyone who's listening might be able to give some creative suggestions. Something I'm overlooking in the area. But yeah.
This is good though, because now I just want to look into it more. Mm-hmm. Because I shouldn't be saying, it's so easy to volunteer.
It's funny you say it's not exactly because I do love to be in the kitchen so much and I don't like to throw food away. I'll have excess soup, for instance, or sauces, and I'll freeze them. And it's like, well, you can only do that for so long. And so I kind of asked around, are there any places that I can donate this food? It was a little bit more challenging than you think. It was really interesting.
Which is good because for food safety wise, I am glad that that's a thing. You shouldn't, but I also, there's just so much food out there that is getting wasted because of specific regulations, which makes it difficult. So it's another one of those that you can see both sides. Did you end up donating it?
I actually wound up donating the food to the volunteers at Harbor Country Mission because someone said people come all the time. It's a wonderful resource and people give of their time. And so a couple of times I have actually brought like labeled and everything. This is butternut squash soup, and happily taken.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one place I was able. Yes, I can see what you mean on both sides, but at the same time,
I know.
It's so tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. That's one of those where you're just like, I'm going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission.
Yeah. And I guess maybe if there has to be a building of trust. So if I know that organization, the people who work there, if they know me, then they know she's not going to poison us with this food.
I don't think it's an unintentional thing, but
like she didn't use bad ingredients here,
right,
kind of thing. So
it's only 5 years old. Here, take it. So people do that. Like, have you volunteered at a food bank or something, and you see people's donations? They're expired. Some of them. I shouldn't say all, but
yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky. You want to make a difference, and you want to, with the best of intentions, and where and how can you do that to help your community? Yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
But I think that kind of goes back to the first point is like, you're doing the best you can, though. Also, like, you have to also be kind to yourself. I think that, yes, we can just do our best and we can just try and learn. You learned that there's maybe a place that will take those things, but I'm going to do some research and I'm going to see if maybe there's a better place or a place that's more consistent, not better.
So if you know yourself, so like the reason why we're having this conversation is because we are two people who are passionate about being a part of a vibrant part, a real part of the community, not just sound judgmental, but we want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And it can feel like you just turn on the news. Everything is just doom and gloom. And you just feel like, well, isn't there something that I can do? I can use my strengths. I can use what I care about. I can use my talents to help someone. So I think it's important to figure out, and I think you said this earlier, figure out what's interesting to you, why you want to do it, and then find a place that's a good match for that. And Absolutely. For me, it is being a part of the community in healthy ways, not just teaching yoga, yes, but I'm super passionate about good food, healthy food, and not throwing it away.
Yeah. Yes. I think that you can tell just by in this conversation, like I can tell that you're going to be really good in the kitchen also. So I think that you should find this place to volunteer because it would be super beneficial in many ways.
Yeah.
It would fill you up too. You're dying to do it.
Exactly. So, any other tips or anything that you could think of that we haven't talked about in our conversation about community and food and health?
Keep thinking about what it is for me, like what community and health and social aspects of life and food systems and internal, external, everything kind of relates. And to me, it is, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but to me, it's my girls. Like it is the people that I surround myself with. It's near and far. I moved here without knowing anybody. And so I have friends at home. I have friends that live internationally and we schedule time, and it's so hard to schedule time. We plan, I'm not exaggerating, over a month out just to like FaceTime for an hour. And it's difficult to do. And I think that putting a lot of time into your personal community and social network is really important, or at least it is for me. And I think that fills me up so much more than I ever realized when I was younger. And I think that because it's so hard as you get older to spend time or even catch up with people. So yeah, I think that my little tip is to take the time to at least talk to the people that you know will always be there and that are a part of your community forever.
So what is your personal definition of what it means to be healthy at this moment?
My personal definition of what it means to be healthy is feeling like you're at least working on becoming the best version of yourself even if that constantly changes and you know that the best version of yourself, it's going to change, and you probably are going to fail at it numerous days, maybe in a row. But I think that just striving to make yourself a little better every day and being kind internally and externally.
Jen, thank you so very much for being here. I had a blast talking to you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Wise women, move from last place to first place in your life. Stop using your body as a battlefield. Let's raise health together with a customized health plan just for you. Contact me at npkhealthintegration.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.